Hey everybody, Mike Guyomi from Sons of a Pitch Soccer Podcast, episode 137, coming at you tonight, one day late because I was stuck in the middle of nowhere with no Wi-Fi. I am here joined by my co-host and good friend Nick Pateris. Unfortunately, I just have this picture of Nick next to me and not the real thing because he's still having issues with his internet at home, but at least we have him on the line through Skype to be able to talk. So Nick, how you doing tonight, this Tuesday, wonderful Tuesday night?
What's up, Mike? What's up, everyone? Yeah, I still can see my face. Still definitely a face for radio, face for podcasting. But maybe we'll kind of work in like some goofy old lips moving graphic from like terrible cartoons and animations from like 10 years ago. Maybe we can figure that out. Or I'll just fix my internet. One of the two. I think it might be easier to fix my internet at this point.
That's what I'm thinking. So we've got a few people, some of our regulars joining us here. We've got Amador Rojas. Thanks for joining us again. Amador, here is your shout out. Thanks for coming back. Adam M as well. Thanks for coming back. Daniel Young. Some good conversations with him this week. So thanks for joining us, guys. It is awesome to talk with you guys every single week and talk soccer. American soccer, we are coming back. MLS is coming back in about, like 8 or 9 days now. I can't wait. We've got the 4th of July coming up, or Independence Day coming up in just a few days, hence the American flag background. Since this is our last episode before the 4th of July. So everybody out there, happy 4th of July, happy Independence Day, and same to you, Nick.
Thank you, Mike. I know are you marching in your town's parade again this year? I know it's one of your favorites.
Yeah, you know what? We're not in the parade this year because there is no parade. So if there was a parade, we'd be in it for either the school or whatever. But it's just a good excuse to have a big party at the house with the family and have a
I figure parades would be like the ideal social distancing thing. Like someone drives down the middle of the road and everyone just stands in their yard. Like it seems to me like the perfect social distancing town activity. But hey, who am I? Just a guy.
That could be.
Just a guy with ideas in a podcast.
Right?
Watch out.
Oh man. So we've got some audience questions to go over. We're going to preview Group C and D previews as well for the tournament. Talk about the Americans overseas. But first off, I want to talk a little bit about what we did earlier today. Nick, tell us about our new friends over in the UK.
Oh, absolutely. We had a great conversation with the Hipster Football Podcast. Follow them on Twitter at HipsterFootyPod. These are 4 guys from England who have been following a lot of the lower leagues, not just in England, but all throughout Europe and the United States. So we got a chance to talk to them a little bit about structure in American soccer, the MLS, the USL, the various USL divisions. They loved hearing about it. They loved learning about how American soccer is organized, how the MLS and the USL interact. But these great sense of humor, these guys, they were drinking a lot more than we were on our podcast too. So we got along very well with them, and it was just a great conversation. They're going to put out actually kind of an American special coming up this Thursday. They've got a lot of content discussing soccer in the United States and in North America, and we were lucky enough to be featured on that. So follow along at Hipster Footy Pod and get all of their content, learn everything going on overseas. And once again, thank you to the guys from the Hipster Footy Pod. We really appreciate you jumping on your show. And, once things really get back going here in the MLS, we'd love to hear your takes on what we got going on over here. A lot of the USL games and teams that you follow, they love the USL jerseys, Mike. Who doesn't? And we'll have them on our show hopefully in the future. So Hipster Footy Pod, check them out. Also want to give a quick shout out to anyone else who has joined our conversation. CJ Philly 93, Betting Tools Biz, TWW Cast, Jack O'Reilly at Jack LOFC, the Revolution Recap Podcast, the Football Brief, Brando at Beer Car 92, Mike Garrett, Halftime Oranges Podcast, probably one of the funniest podcast names, or at least the greatest podcast names that I've heard, Lonely Goalpost, Tyler Snipes, Jake Castillo, and then Kyle Pruitt, Neil Middleton, Gary Davenport. All these people have jumped on and joined our conversation on Twitter over the last couple of weeks, and we thank you all for your support. Mike, any other programming announcements, or should we dive right into the soccer?
I'll dive right into soccer because we are having some video issues here that I am trying to work out. The video is lagging, so everybody who is out there, hang with us, Nick. Keep going there, and I will keep working on that problem.
Fantastic. So we're going to start the conversation because that's what we do here. We're trying to grow the sport of soccer through conversation. And we got a listener viewer question from Daniel Young, who wanted us to discuss some of our greatest soccer memories, whether MLS, whether international. Daniel even mentioned about how he took in some international games, and that made a big impact on him. And he's a New Yorker, so you get a lot of international friendlies, exhibition games being played out in the East Coast there. But for me, I got a couple different memories that I wanted to share. One of my best MLS memories was the 2006 All-Star Game, and I think if you've been listening to our show for the last few months or so, you've probably heard me mention it. But I actually won a radio contest from Q101, a local station here in Chicago, and I got 2 tickets to the MLS All-Star Game, 2006. Played in Bridgeview. It was when Toyota Park was just coming into its own, and they were really building it up, and it was cool atmosphere. I'm trying to remember the name of the artist, like a hip-hop artist from Chicago who played halftime. His big song at the time was Kick Push, and it's going to come to me later. But it was the MLS All-Stars versus Chelsea. And here you have this wonder club from overseas, this great English soccer club, a staple in the world, and the MLS All-Stars beat them 1-0 off of a goal from none other, Mike, than one of your fellow Canadian Patriots, Dwayne De Rosario. Beautiful goal, and the only thing better than the goal was the celebration. I ended up sitting 2 rows in front of D-Rose family, and they were just going nuts for this goal. I'm like high-fiving his aunt. I'm like waving at his cousin. It was so much fun. And on top of it, to continue the memory, those 2 tickets also came with a coaching session with the Chicago Fire Academy squad. So I got to hang out with all these. Apparently, they only recruited guys from Ireland at the time, because there was like 8 guys, all from Ireland, who just like bartended and played soccer for the Fire Academy, and they put on this coaching clinic for a few people who showed up from the radio contest. So that's like my greatest MLS memory. It was tons of fun, and I'm really happy. I wish they would do kind of more stuff like that to really just bring fans in and get a lot more exposure. So that's me, Mike. What about your MLS memories?
Yeah, so for MLS, it's definitely 2016 MLS Cup. That was, for me, that was the best, the best memory I'll ever have, even though it was such a horrible memory with TFC losing in penalty kicks. But just being at that game was absolutely amazing, and that is something that I will never forget. So that is probably my number one MLS memory. As far as international soccer goes, I know I've talked about it in the past, as well as to you a few times with the Gold Cup game back in like 2011, where Canada was playing Haiti in Miami, and De Rosario scored both goals. So interesting that we both have De Rosario in our memories and greatest memories. But that is probably the probably my 2 greatest memories overall for MLS as well as international. Also could go to maybe the USA-Ecuador game that I went to back in Tampa. That might have been up there as well for my international experience for being a good memory.
That's awesome, Mike. The De Rosario factor, that's really weird. Maybe it's a sign that we got to get him on the podcast. So right? If by some small miracle Dwayne or anyone that knows him is listening to this, reach out to us on Twitter at SOP Soccer or via email podcast@sonsofapitchsoccer.com. And we'd love to talk to you, Dero. We'd love to hear about all of these things and get your players' perspective from our fan memories. As far as international memories for me, though, Mike, the biggest international game I attended, I attended a USA-Poland game in Chicago. Obviously, if Poland is playing a friendly, they're coming to Chicago, and they stomped the U.S. at that point. I saw a couple club games. I know I saw an International Champions Cup game where it was like Inter Milan and Olympiacos obviously got their asses handed to them. It ended up being 4-0. In that group, Greeks lost 4-0 to Argentina, 4-0 to Bulgaria, and 3-0 to Nigeria, I think.
Huh.
Which, oddly enough, in the 2010 World Cup, Greece also got pulled into a group with Argentina and Nigeria. So it's odd how that worked out. But that was probably one of my best memories, is being in Chicago for a World Cup game, just getting rowdy with all the other Greek fans and all the other soccer fans. I'd come to hear years later that the Greek national team, it was their first ever World Cup experience. So those guys were just thrilled to be there. Like, most of them were like in their 30s. This is their last shot at doing anything. They were out partying every night in Chicago. Didn't matter if they had a World Cup game the next day. They were partying in Greektown. They were partying all over the city. Like, there's some Greek guys that I've met later on in life who are like, oh yeah, I was partying with those guys before their matchup. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. But it was so much fun. And oddly enough, the first apartment I ever got, the guy across the hall was an accountant. And he's like, oh yeah, my firm did work for U.S. Soccer. I was at the opening ceremony for World Cup 94 in a box suite with President Clinton. I'm like, what? So these like, Chicago is such a great U.S. soccer town. I'm really hoping that, by the time the World Cup comes around, they can pull a fast one and get a game hosted there. I know the current Chicago administration, or at least Emmanuel, when he was in office, it didn't want to host a World Cup game for whatever reason. I don't know how Lightfoot feels about it, and I don't know whoever the mayor that's going to be there in 2026.
Right.
But I would love to see Chicago get a World Cup game, because the town just reeks of U.S. soccer history.
Yeah, it does for sure. And Eric S. says in the comments that his would be going to the LAFC versus Lyon game. He's happy and lucky he was able to see it live. Absolutely agree. That one of the last games before the coronavirus break, and what a game that was. I mean, that game was amazing. So a great game to go see for sure.
That was the LAFC comeback, right?
Yeah, it was the LAFC comeback.
Like
they had lost down. Yeah, they had lost down in Mexico in the first leg, and then they came back and just stormed back and ended up taking it to move on to the second round up against Cruz Azul, which never unfortunately got started. But they're in the best position of all the MLS teams because of that. So still having some technical issues here. I don't know what the heck is going on. My bandwidth here is fine. I'm not dropping any frames. So Nick, I think this one's on you again, sir.
Gosh darn it, Mike. Gosh darn it.
So, anyways, we got to keep moving on here. As long as everybody can, can hear us, and it's at least good to go through this. Let's get through this episode and keep on going. So, right, moving along to our next set on the list here is some great conversations that we had with our listeners. Also had a great conversation with Rocky up in Portland. Rocky, unfortunately, I don't think he's on the live yet, but it was a good conversation with him there last night. When I was stuck up in the middle of nowhere using my phone, talking about the Portland Timbers and some cool facts about their stadium as well, which I'm sure we'll share at a later time. But moving right in, let's talk a little bit about Group C and Group D of the MLS's back tournament. So we've got Group C coming up here. This is going to be, you've got Toronto FC in this group, right? So this is Toronto FC. And then the New England Revolution, Montreal Impact, and DC United. So this is a pretty solid group because all of the teams are good teams, right? There's nobody that's really weak in here. You've got Montreal that has got the CONCACAF Champions League set up in this previous season here, which is still technically ongoing. But TFC is the number one seed in this group. To me, TFC is probably the top team in this group, and next would be the Revolution, kind of tied with DC United. I think both have a lot of talent, but I think the Revolution can pull that out as far as in this group. But again, when you're talking about a short 3-game type of setup in a tournament, anything can happen. Montreal can beat DC, Toronto can beat DC, New England could beat Toronto. Anything can happen in these games. So for me, it's a toss-up. in this group on who can pull it off. Toronto at least they're fully healthy, and that's something that there was an issue in the beginning of the season with no Michael Bradley, no Pablo Piatti, who they had brought in, but they're fully healthy now. So, we'll see. We'll see how this group goes. But overall, my pick to come out of this group is Toronto FC, as well as the New England Revolution, and then possibly DC United as a third-place team. So that's who I'm thinking. Nick, are you back with us yet?
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. And it's hard to disagree with Toronto being the favorite in that group. People were picking Toronto to win the league in the preseason. In fact, we did a team preview with Dwayne Rollins, who, if anyone has followed anything Canadian soccer, you've heard or come across a Dwayne Rollins. Mike, what's his Twitter handle?
At 24th minute.
Exactly. So there's your Canadian soccer reference for you.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that was fun. So go back and check out that video in our setup there, and look that one up after you're done watching this episode.
Yeah, so Dwayne is all in, or at least at the time was all in on Toronto winning the MLS Cup, possibly winning the Shield. Like they're stacked. They're an excellent team. Your MLS Cup runner-up, not much change on the roster. You're getting Pablo Piatti, you're getting Toronto's Piatti back. Pablo Piatti, yeah. So they're clearly the favorite in that group. Now, we know New England has vastly improved since Bruce Arena took over. And really, it's really helped that their goalkeeping has gotten so much better. Matt Turner all of a sudden is in the national team picture. Like, he's probably going to get some call-ups. I think he maybe already got one with Greg Berhalter, and he's saying, and people are saying with Zach Steffen being injured, that it's likely Matt Turner's going to be able to, be the number one, at least for the time being, and give Steffen a run for their money. So I think you've got Toronto and New England, 1 and 2 in this group. I think DC is actually kind of the sleeper. I don't know how they're going to recover from Paul Arriola missing this season due to a knee injury, an ACL tear. He was such an important part of their attack. And then obviously Wayne Rooney's gone. He was a very integral part of that team. And I think a little bit too kind of helped keep the locker room together. So remains to be seen how DC United is going to come out. So Montreal, though, I really don't think the third place team is getting out of this group, Mike. I don't see enough parity where a team with like a win and 2 draws can occur in this one. I mean, Toronto should win all 3 games, and the Revolution should win 2. So I don't see Montreal or DC advancing as a third-place team out of here. But, hey, if DC gets hot, they're my sleeper out of this group to advance and maybe win a knockout game. That's kind of my take on it. And for our fans, feel free, go back, check out all of our team previews that we put up before the MLS season began, and it'll give you even more insight into the rosters, to the breakout players, and to really what we think the ceiling and floor is of each team. So, I mean, we only had 2 games. Those prediction videos should probably still be fairly accurate, at least from what we were saying in it.
Yeah, and and that also brings me up to the picks and predictions videos that I was doing, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to handle this for my picks and predictions, going into the tournament. I'm debating on whether I should, do an episode every day for each day worth of games, or do one to cover like 3 days. I'm confused on what the heck I should do, but I got to figure that out. That one's on me. But looks like we've got Daniel Young also speaking. He will miss Hakeem Ziyech in an Ajax FC kit. I am not sure who Hakeem Ziyech is. So, Daniel, if you want to fill me in, let me know. Shoot us a message on Facebook, or let us know in the chat here as we go. But, yeah, Group C, going to be a great group. It's going to be fun to watch. I'm excited. I know we'll be doing some lives. Nick, we got to discuss after this kind of how we, how we're going to do these live stream setups, going into MLS's back tournament. I know that we will be live on July 8th, or at least I will be live on July 8th doing the Inter Miami versus Orlando game, as well as I think it's the Chicago Fire and Nashville SC game. But we'll see. We'll figure that out. But Group D, let's talk a little bit about Group D. This one, you've got Real Salt Lake. You've got Sporting Kansas City. You got Colorado Rapids and Minnesota United FC. This one, to me, this is maybe one of the best groups in the tournament. Real Salt Lake's kind of to me, it's the weakest link as far as the top seeds go. They were kind of just thrown in as like the highest point total, or whatever that exactly was.
Right, they were the highest point total in the Western Conference because
Right.
you had your MLS Cup finalists, and then you had your host city in Orlando, and then your Supporters Shield winner in Atlanta, and then they're like, okay, well, we need another Western Conference team to be the top seed, and they had the most points, even though I think they ended up third in the West, maybe, or something like that. Second, I forget exactly how it shook out. But yeah, they just kind of had to pick a Western Conference team, and Real got the top seed.
Yeah. So, but looking at this group, I mean, Real Salt Lake is still a decent team. And then you've got Sporting Kansas City, who is on fire, who has tons and tons of talent. You've got the Colorado Rapids, which, don't forget about them. There's two, there was 2 stoppage time victories for them. Also, the Minnesota United. Luis Amarilla has been unbelievable in his first 2 games for that club. And I don't know, man. I like Minnesota a lot. I like their game a lot. They've done a lot. They moved away from some pieces that people were a little skeptical of. But overall, a very strong team. So you've got really 3 very strong teams in this group, plus then a Real Salt Lake team, which is the seeded team because of those top points in the Western Conference. So I don't know, man. It's a really strong group. Who do you think is going to get out of this group?
So to answer your question directly, I think it's Sporting Kansas City and Minnesota United. I think that's your 1 and 2. Maybe they flip in that order, but to me, those are the 2 best teams, and those are the 2 teams that should get out of the group. I do agree with you, though, Mike. Like, this is probably the most balanced group. I know a lot of people are really excited to see LAFC Portland, and I forget the 4th team in that group, but so does everyone else at this point. But I really like this group, and part of it is the balance, and the other part of it is kind of my own personal fandom. I always kind of leaned towards Kansas City as my Western Conference team, and gosh, we've been high on them since we started doing this podcast a couple of years ago. Yeah. We always picked them to be one of the top 3 teams in the West. I think a couple of years ago we even had them winning the MLS Cup, and then of course they hit the CCL, the Champions League curse, and just had one of their worst seasons in league or in team history. But I'm going to stick with them. I'm going to keep coming back to Kansas City. You've got Peter Vermees, who has done everything at every level of U.S. soccer. You've got an excellent defense. Granted, last year they did drop a lot of points and they dropped a lot of goals because their defense was suspect, but they were so injury-riddled. I expect Vermees to come up with something in some way to kind of bolster the roster. You've got quality guys in Beasler and Zusi in the back line. Even though they're older, their experience is going to help them out and really anchor that back line, and they're really building attack. You had Gadi Kinda, who they just signed from the Israeli League. Yeah. And really, if you watched that first Kansas City game, I forget who they played, Mike, but it was like 4-0 real quick. Like, they came out ready to play.
Yep.
It was Houston.
That was my guarantee of the week, Nick. How can you forget?
Was your guarantee of the week Houston to win?
No.
Maybe
my
that's why I
guarantee
forgot.
of the week for Sporting Kansas City to win. Nick, ever since we did that playoff, challenge there, you admitted it. You finally admitted it, and my confidence was soaring. And I had a great first 2 weeks of the season. So we'll see how that continues.
You did outplay me in the pick'em, that's for sure, Mike. But hey, I'm still high. I'm gonna stick with my Western Conference team of the last 3 years, despite them always coming up short. I'm gonna stick with Kansas City to win this group. I know Minnesota United is the favorite by a lot of people, in a lot of soccer pundits, a lot of soccer talking heads, and a lot of fans. Minnesota is definitely on the rise. It seems like they've found the right combination of offense and defense. And it sounds like Adrian Heath has really kind of settled into a comfort zone with his players. And they had one of their best seasons last season. I think it was the first time they made the playoffs. So Minnesota United, definitely a favorite. My sleeper team, though, is Colorado. I can't pick Salt Lake as a sleeper since they're the 1 seed in that group.
Right.
Plus, they did have a good season last year. I think Colorado is my sleeper team here. They finished the season last season very strong. You got Shinesiki, who did he end up becoming the rookie of the year last season?
I believe so. Yeah.
Right. So you've got an excellent coach. And on top of it, you've got Lalas Abubakar, who was a staple with Columbus for so long, loaned to Colorado, which I thought that was kind of interesting to see an intra MLS kind of loan.
Right.
But he signed. His future was uncertain, but now he is signed with the Rapids, and he is going to, I think, feature for them and play really well. So Colorado is my sleeper team to come out of Group D. This could be a group that gets 3 teams out. I mean, if you have Sporting in Minnesota playing to a draw, and then every other team beats Real, Salt Lake, or Colorado, maybe you get a team with 4 or 5 points coming out of Group D. So that's kind of the long and short of it for me.
Awesome.
But as is with me, usually it's the longer, not the shorter.
Yeah, we're used to that, Nick. That's fine. We do a podcast for a living. Not for a living. I wish it was for a living. One day we'll get there. But we definitely like to talk. Group D for me, I think I can't wait to watch these matchups. And Eric S says, judging from the first 2 games of the season, Sporting versus Minnesota should be a great game. I agree 100%. I can't wait for that one. Hopefully it's not at like a 9 a.m. slot so we can do it live. Because I really want to watch that one. I think for me, the teams that get out of this group are Sporting, Kansas City, and Minnesota. Whoever wins that matchup against each other will take top spot. And then I think Colorado gets it done as the as the third place team getting through. So I think this group has 3 teams coming out of it. I think Real Salt Lake. I don't know what it is about Real Salt Lake, and if there's any RSL fans that are listening here, please let me know what it is about your team that is so good, because I don't really see it. I'm not a big fan of Real Salt Lake. I think every time I watch them play, they're just like, it's all right, And they got rid of my guy Bofo, right? I mean, that was my guy, Bofo Saucedo. Go back to like episode 3 of our Sons of a Pitch Soccer podcast from like 3 years ago, and we had a great conversation about Saucedo. Bofo, what was his? Sebastian Bofo Saucedo, who's now I think with Pumas or something like that.
Who's doing really well with Pumas, by the way.
And just play him, man. Just play him, and he'll do good. He was a hell of a player. He even said it himself.
Yeah, that was probably one of the best tweets I've seen. Some fan tweeted out like, why didn't he do good RSL? And Bofo actually tweeted back and said, because they didn't play me.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, great stuff. But yeah, RSL, man, they're one of those teams that they always, I feel like, outperform expectations. Then again, they've relied on Kyle Beckerman and Nick Raimondo for so long, and now those guys are gone. Actually, I don't know if Beckerman's gone, but Raimondo has retired. I'm sure they're going to have an average goalkeeper, because that's just goalkeeping in the MLS. You're going to have an average guy typically able to step in, or they can sign somebody for a year. Again, I'm forgetting my rosters, Mike. It's been 3 months since we watched an MLS game. But they relied so much on their senior leadership there, and who knows if they're going to be able to overcome the loss of Raimondo, Beckerman taking a step back because of his just age and the miles the guy's put on his legs. Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, they're gonna have to rely on Krylak and a couple of the other young stars that are shooting to get some national team recognition.
Absolutely. Definitely a good group to watch. Both of these groups, C and D, are going to be really, really exciting to watch. So with that, let's take a quick moment to thank our sponsors. And again, these sponsors are on the podcast side. We are looking for a new sponsor for our YouTube channel. So if you want your product placed up here like, these guys with Skira Water, definitely a Great water. Go check it out at your 7-Eleven. It's at every 7-Eleven in the United States of America. Both go buy some Skira. I've had a couple bottles of it myself, and I love it. It replaced Fiji, and if it replaces Fiji, you know it's good, because wasn't Fiji water like the coolest thing in the world just like a couple years ago? So anyways, go get some of that. Also on the podcast side, thank you to Donovan Food Brokerage, as well as Nice Premium Iceland Pure Spring Water. We got a little battle here with the Icelandic waters coming and sponsoring our podcast. So thank you guys very much for that. And as well to our listeners and our viewers, go out and support our sponsors and go pick up some water either at Walgreens or at 7-Eleven. So
isn't it great, Mike, with all the hydration breaks that we're getting in soccer today? We've got 2 water companies who are sponsoring the Sons of a Pitch soccer podcast. So yes, hydration is important both on the pitch and off the pitch as well. So yeah, check out Skira and Nice Premium Iceland Pure Spring Water.
Absolutely. Now we got a little comment here from Daniel. He let us know who Hakeem Ziyech is, because I had no idea. So he said that he is a professional footballer who plays as an attacking mid for Ajax and will join Chelsea on July 1st. So
I thought he played for Ajax.
Good. What's that?
I thought he played for Ajax.
Ajax? Oh, whatever. American soccer podcast, man. There's a city called Ajax right outside of Toronto, and that's why I think of that every single time. But yeah,
and there's a Greek mythical hero, and there's my Greek plug for tonight. Okay, great, we got it.
So, anyways, thanks Daniel for letting us know about that. Apparently, the guy's probably pretty damn good if he's going from Ajax to Chelsea. So definitely will miss him if you're an Ajax fan, as Daniel is. Also plays for the Moroccan national team as well. So yeah, thanks for letting us know, Daniel. And again, thanks for the conversation with the great memories, sharing your memories as well as us sharing our memories. Definitely fun chatting with you. I'm trying to get the voice. Daniel and I have been going back and forth. He's got like the voice. He can like record a little recording of himself talking, and he sends it to me. And the other day I was trying to record myself, and then it just translated into text, and then I had to go back and edit everything out. And I'm like, oh, come on, man. So Daniel, if you're a tech guy, let me know how to do that on an Android phone, Samsung Galaxy S, whatever it is here. So Galaxy S9, which, by the way, pretty cool case. So if you want to get some swag, go get some swag and support our Sons of a Pitch soccer podcast by picking up some merchandise, swag, whatever you want to call it, at sonsofapitch.redbubble.com. It helps us grow. We get a percentage of the profits, and that helps us put money back into the podcast and continues to grow the sport of soccer here in the United States of America. And plus, you get some kick-ass merchandise while you're at it, walking around with Sons of a Pitch on your shirt or your hat or your coffee cup or your phone case. People get a kick out of it. So I get plenty of laughs when I walk around with my stuff. So thanks again to everybody bringing the conversation to us. Now let's talk a little bit about some American soccer players, such as the most important one, Christian Pulisic. I see the notes here, dude. What's going on, man?
Mike, were you a salesman in a prior life? Like, that was just too smooth.
Yeah, I was.
I don't know. Maybe it's the drink talking, but that was good, man. That was good.
Thanks.
Sure. So, yeah, Pulisic, Captain America, the golden boy. Though it's funny, we call, people have been calling him Captain America, and a lot of people are saying, no, Claudio Reyna is Captain America all the times that he captained the U.S. side. But anyway, Christian Pulisic of Chelsea. He was subbed out during the second half hydration break of Chelsea's last match due to tightness in his calf. I haven't followed up with it too much, Mike, but I haven't been seeing much in the news. It could have been just that. He was cramping up, got some tightness. He's still coming back. A lot of these players are getting back into the swing of playing full games, playing multiple games over the course of a week. And it was during a hydration break, too, so he had slowed down, maybe things got tight, maybe he was dehydrated. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's sign of Christian Pulisic being injury prone because he already had a prior adductor injury this season in Chelsea, and I think he spent some time with an ankle injury at Borussia Dortmund. The guy's only 21. I mean, are you worried that he's becoming injury prone, or do you think this is just literal or literal or not growing pains here because he is only 21.
I really hope he's not injury prone. I mean, seeing what we're seeing, it looks like it might be the case. But, oh, man, I really hope he's not because, I mean, that's kind of like Josie Altidore, right? If Josie wasn't injured all the damn time, he'd be probably one of the best players in American soccer history. But because he's injured all the time, he's not. And I'm hoping that the same does not go for Christian Pulisic. I don't know, man. I mean, maybe I don't know what to say. It obviously he's a little frail from what we've seen this year and the last couple of years. I'm hoping that he pulls it together and doesn't get injured as much because the USA needs him. Now the positive side for us, if we want to be selfish here on the USMNT side of things, is we don't have any games. Right? There's no games coming up. Nations League's been postponed. All of these international soccer games have been postponed because of coronavirus. So there's plenty of time for him to heal up and play more with Chelsea and whatever before playing for the U.S. It's not like we've got a game coming up next weekend and he's not coming to camp now because he's got some type of slight injury. So that's the positive side for us on the USMNT side. Now the side of Chelsea. I don't know. I mean, that's maybe is that the reason why he's not getting the starts all the time over that Mount guy? That maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe it's just Lampard's, kind of an ass, like the guys on Hipster Footy Podcast or Football Podcast were talking about earlier today. They're like, yeah, that's totally Frank Lampard. Like he's just an asshole like that.
Right. Still bitter against the United States for winning the World Cup 2010 group, sending England into a knockout round matchup against Germany.
Yeah.
So,
I think he probably
said they would
pissed
put that
off
past
too
Lampard.
with all the hate he got in New York City. Maybe not from the New York City fans. And Daniel, you can probably enlighten us on that. But dude, like that guy, he never played for NYCFC, and when he did, he was invincible.
Right.
Invisible. Whatever.
Definitely not
the
invincible.
Scotch is talking again. So. Maybe he's a little salty about the USA for that. I don't know. But anyways,
Right.
that's enough
Or
of that.
maybe
Hopefully.
he's still getting too much flack from fans and commentators and everyone saying, why aren't you playing Pulisic more? Like, I get it. Pulisic's 21. It's his first season in the Premier League. Like, they want to bring him along and see how he does in training and see how he stacks up. And, Lampard, to his credit, has used him pretty well, if you're developed for a young player development. But the thing is, Pulisic is scoring or assisting something like every 120 minutes or something like that. If you're playing that well, you can't just be brought along slowly.
Right. I mean, look, the guy is. I don't think the flack is really getting to him with the pundits and everybody being like, why aren't you playing Pulisic more? Because this is Chelsea, dude. Like, we're not talking about, I don't know, like NYCFC or an MLS team. We're not talking about, mid-table La Liga team. We're talking about one of the biggest clubs in the world. And, they're always catching flack from somewhere or someone or something because of, the guy from Serbia who's, 18 years old, who's the next Serbian superstar, or the Russian, or the Angolan player. There's all these guys that if they're at a club like Chelsea, they are the hero of their country. They are the biggest player, the best player for their country, and I'm sure they get flack from that too. So maybe the American side of it, there's more media, there's more, America. I don't know, America, yeah, whatever. But I don't know. It is what it is. I'm not thinking that's the case,
Gotcha. No, I got you. And two, what's nice is we've got guys like Adams and McKennie and Reyna and Dest and all these other guys playing overseas as well. So, I mean, we can look to Pulisic as the golden boy, as the poster child, as the face of the USMNT, but we've got all these other guys who are playing well. Heck, even
right.
Josh Sargent got his goal for Werder Bremen finally.
Are you already back on the Sargent hype train after he got one goal?
I'm the hype train. I've been saying that
Josh
he needs to get off of
Sargent's
Werder
back.
Bremen. I'm just happy he finally got one. Like, we've been waiting for it. Like, it's about time. Like, yes, like we can finally talk about other people having highlights and things like that. Not just Pulisic and McKennie, who's making the best of a bad situation at Schalke right now. But yeah, it's been a pretty good week or so for our Americans overseas. The one other funny thing too, Mike, we got to mention. I don't know if you saw Matt Miazga get into it with an opposing player at the end of the game, reminiscent of him going after the one El Tree player in international competition. Oh, it was fantastic. But he's taken a lot of flack from a lot of different people saying, you want to play for the USMNT, you want to play with the big boys, you got to keep your temper because now the other team knows they can go after you and get to you. So what do you take from that situation? Do you agree? Does Miazga need to chill and act more mature from a soccer player? Or, dude, let the guy play his game. Like, we need this edge. I've heard it both ways, and I want to know your take.
I like the edge, but maybe that's because I'm Canadian and I used to play hockey and I kind of have that edge myself. I don't know, but it is what it is. If he can perform at that level, he'll be there. If he can't perform at that level, he won't be there, regardless of if he has an edge or not. That's not going to be the make or break factor for Matt Miazga and getting minutes with the USMNT first team. So, to me, I like it. I want to see that passion, that drive. That's something that you get from the top players. Now, obviously, his play hasn't quite backed up, but that's it is what it is. But I like it. What are your thoughts, Nick?
First of all, as a spectator and as like a fan of sports as entertainment, love it. Every day, all day, bring it. Let me see who Matt Miazga is going to mess with next. I mean, I don't want to see fists flying. I don't want to see early ejections, but like, it's fun. It's exciting. It's another storyline in every game he plays that you can kind of follow and watch for. It's great. If he's not doing it to put the team in jeopardy, I think to me that's where the line is. If he's costing games, if he's dropping points, if he is getting ejected early on and the team's in jeopardy or he's not available for future games, then you really got to have a serious conversation about it. But in this particular game, it was after the final whistle. Now, he did get red carded, as did the opposing player, because he kind of hooked him around the neck and threw him. Then the guy came back. Then the guy came back and headbutted Miazga, so Miazga slapped him across the face, which was fantastic. Again, beautiful drama, passionate game, all that sort of thing about soccer. But if he's not jeopardizing the team, do it. Have an edge. I would love to see the next time the USA matches up against Mexico, the Mexican players are more worried about going after Miazga than they are about actually sticking to their game plan. And I would love to see Miazga be able to then just absorb that and not overreact and then make the opposing players try to get to him even more. And then that becomes the game within the game. And if he and the U.S. can win that small game, then they have much more control over their opposing team's psyche, which will help them in the actual score sheet. So that's my kind of sports psychoanalysis of the whole situation. But yeah, give him the edge, man. He's not backing down. I love it. Yeah. I like it. I want more of it.
Hey, so we feel the same way on that one. Also, we've got Daniel lets us know Lampard was decent for NYCFC when we needed him, especially against the Red Bulls, and in the playoffs he was shut down. Who wasn't shut down for NYCFC in the playoffs? David Villa was shut down in the playoffs for NYCFC and everybody that followed him. And then he also says, it is still great to see a soccer/football legend play for my favorite team, NYCFC. Agreed. It's a great name to say that, and again, the same with Andrea Pirlo. For me, I'm a big Italian fan, and, Andrea Pirlo is like a cult hero. That guy was awesome for Italy and for a lot of clubs throughout the world. So I agree with you, Daniel. It is awesome to have that as well. Make sure, if you have not done so already, please subscribe to our channel. We're getting 1,000 subscriber challenge going on here. We've simplified it for all of you guys who have subscribed already. If we reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the MLS is Back tournament on August 11, 2020, one subscriber will be randomly drawn to win a $250 Visa gift card. So no frills, no, we're done with the whole, we're going to give you tickets and 2 t-shirts and no airfare and all that business. It's a $250 gift card. When we reach 1,000 subscribers, all of you will be drawn, randomly drawn in. One subscriber will win that $250 Visa gift card. I will get in touch with you, and we will make sure we get your mailing address. So, with that being said, Reggie Cannon. There's apparently some transfer news out of Dallas. There has been some things in the past about Paxton Pomykal as well as Reggie Cannon, but right now, at the moment, Reggie Cannon is kind of is taking those headlines right now. Reggie Cannon, where do you think this guy's going to go? 22 years old. He's linked to some clubs in Germany and in Belgium. What are your thoughts on Reggie Cannon, Nick?
Right. Well, to address Pomykal, I mean, I think he's going to be the next big Dallas product to really get that overseas scouting. I think clubs are waiting for Pomykal to get a full year in the MLS before they really start to want to invest in him. So at the end of this season, Pomykal is going to be where Cannon is now. Okay. Linked to Freiburg in the Bundesliga, linked to Anderlecht and Ghent. Yep. In the Belgian league. And I mean, I would love to see him play for a top 5 league and get that kind of exposure. But at 22 years old, I think it would be really cool to see him get like a 4-year deal over in Ghent, who's the top team in Belgium. And I think who's your guy from TFC that came over from Belgium? Pozuelo.
Every time, man. Every time Ghent comes up in a conversation, you're like, oh, Pozuelo. No, Pozuelo came from Genk. Genk, not Ghent. Get it right. Ghent.
Genk's also in Belgium, right?
It is. and KAA Ghent is actually the team where Jonathan David plays for, the Canadian men's national team up-and-comer who's been linked to all kinds of crazy clubs as well.
Hey man, I'm just as good with my Belgian geography as that whole group of Liverpool fans. If you remember that story, they went down to play them in a international competition, and they all ended up in the wrong city because they mixed it up just like I did.
Yep.
Fortunately, the team found out about it, and whichever city they ended up in, and gave them all free tickets and invited them in. So it worked out. So I'm just pulling for free tickets here, Mike. That's what I'm trying to do.
Okay.
Anyway,
nice.
But I'd love to see him end up, in Belgium in that kind of for like a 3-4 year deal, and then maybe get that contract with a big club at age like 20, right around age 24, 25, when they can still sell him. He's under contract for a couple of years, and then move to a Liverpool, move to a Bayern, a Barcelona, and really make a splash. So I think that would be great for him. Get a springboard into the top 5, get some exposure in Europe, and then make that big jump. And again, when he's then 25, 26, he'll be our starting back for the U.S.
All right. That I don't know much about Reggie Cannon's game, so other than the few matches that I've seen from him playing for USMNT, I don't really follow FC Dallas much. So I would like, if I had a choice out of those 3 teams, I'd say go to Freiburg, go to the Bundesliga. That's what's successful right now. That's what's working for a lot of these USMNT players. So that's where I would go. Also, Daniel says that he doesn't like fighting Miazga. Stay in the game plan. His experiences playing in England is needed for the USMNT. So there you go. There is a nice differing opinion than ours. He does not like the fighting Miazga. We do. So there's going to be both sides of that kind of thing. Now, what works best for the USMNT and for Miazga, that's going to be the best question. So also another player in MLS, a young kid. We had brought his name up today when we were talking with the Hipster Football podcast. Gianluca Busio has been linked to Fiorentina. He's been linked to Fiorentina before, now again. So that club really, really likes what they see with him. But there's only one problem. That's the only team he's been linked to for a while. Is that a problem, or is that just Fiorentina being on top of things? What are your thoughts on Busio to Fiorentina and/or getting transferred out at some point?
I totally see him getting transferred out, especially with Kansas City wanting the money on that one, Mike. And I'm getting a little feedback here on my microphone, so let me see if that does anything there. Sorry about that, everybody. But yeah, we're getting. So yeah, like I think Busio linked to Italy. I think it would be a good spot for a young American player at this point. I mean, Fiorentina, solid team, usually right in the mix of the pack towards the top half of the table or so. Get some good developmental minutes there. But yeah, I think Kansas City will sell him at the first chance they get. They'll probably get a decent fee for him, considering he's a homegrown. They'll probably get a lot more of that money from the league, and I think it'd be great to have another American overseas, especially someone who's going to be able to have a 10, 15-year career there if he so chooses, and then come on back to the MLS when he's in his early 30s and still have an impact. So I think it'd be a great career to follow full circle from Kansas City to Kansas City, start to finish, with a chunk of Europe in the middle. My take on Busio, Mike. What do you think?
Okay, I mean that would be great. I think Busio has talent for sure. I just have not seen enough of him. I think he would be better off staying at Sporting Kansas City, staying in MLS, getting some more time on the first team. When he is consistently starting for the first team in Sporting Kansas City, then look to a move. He's still young enough. He's 18 years old, 19 years old. He has time to make this jump. If he does it when he's 20 or 21, no big deal. Make sure you get cemented in that first team. So that's what I'm thinking there for Busio. I don't know. The only nervous thing for me is the fact that Fiorentina was looking for him a couple, probably last year, or even maybe the year before that, and now it's still Fiorentina. It's not any of these other clubs. So I say stick with it here in MLS for another season, maybe two, and build yourself up to the first team starting position there, and then go forward.
Well, hey, Mike, you're the accountant. You got to have the talk to drive up the price, right? So they got to keep floating the Fiorentina rumors out there. They got to keep making sure that he's got some offers. What's funny is last year, in late 2019, supposedly there were some rumors that he would end up with Inter Milan or Man United even. But yep. I mean, those apparently were just that, rumors, unless they were going to sign him and immediately loan him back to his MLS club, or loan him out to English Championship side, or like a Danish side or something like that, a small league in Europe, just to get him some minutes and get him some development, and hey, maybe see what they can. But you're right. You got to keep floating those. Rumors out there, man. Got to keep the interest going. He's their top prospect. He's the guy. He could be the one where everyone says, "Whoa, maybe we need to take a look at Sporting Kansas City's academy and see the kind of players that they're bringing up." Just like we already said with Dallas and Red Bulls, Busio could do that for Kansas City.
Yep, for sure. So last couple things to talk about. We're closing up. We're about 55 minutes in to our episode here tonight, and we've got the real stuff coming soon, man. I mean, it is time to get serious. We have a lot of soccer to talk about very, very soon, and there's some article about a new Nike ball for the Premier League. What do you? Is this just filler? I mean, what is this?
This is just my oddity headline that I wanted to throw out there. Nike is releasing a new soccer ball for the Premier League. It's got it's the weirdest looking soccer ball you will ever see. Supposedly, though, because of its design, it's only got like 4 panels that are stitched together. Instead of like if you go back to like the quintessential soccer ball, the 1970 Adidas World Cup ball that has the black pentagon and then the white hexagons in it, that each one of those little pieces was a panel. Over the years now, you've seen different panel configurations. I think the most famous one was the South African ball from Adidas, where everyone, they only got to try it out training for the World Cup, and it had a different swerve, it had a different flight pattern because of the way the panels were stitched together. Well, now this Nike ball has only 4 panels and tons of grooves in it. It looks like like a chew toy for a dog at first glance. You know, maybe something my like infant would play with when he was teething. But supposedly because of less panels, less stitching, and the way these grooves are similar to dimples in a golf ball, it actually flies more true to how you strike it. They've had over 800 players test it and give feedback. They've done, lab testing. They say it flies 30% more true to how you strike it. But only time will tell. Only live game action will tell. So again, just an oddity little headline that I wanted to throw out there in case we start seeing these weird looking soccer balls pop up all over the place. But I do like how they're introducing them now, like towards the end of the Premier League season. That way people can get used to them. They can get feedback, modify it, do what they need to, or maybe introduce it in other leagues or pull it rather than how Adidas used to, where they just introduced it for the World Cup and you had like 2 weeks to get used to it before you had the biggest game of your life.
Yeah. Okay, that's enough said. I looked at the picture of it. It looks weird. I don't know what to tell you. We'll have to see what it looks like when the game is on. But yeah, Nick, happy 4th of July, man. Happy Independence Day. God bless America. And let's get ready for some real soccer. We'll be back next week. I don't know if we're going to do a live this weekend. I think we really need to focus on making sure everything is tight for the start of MLS's back tournament, and let's really run this baby into the ground and tear it up coming up here. So, Nick, if there's anything else you want to finish on, thanks again to our listeners, to our viewers, Daniel, Adnan, Amador, Eric S, Rocky tonight. Rocky didn't show up tonight. I just chatted with the guy last night, and he doesn't come in tonight. So miss you tonight, Rocky.
Can only take you one night a week, Mike. Apparently.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So yeah. Thanks for everybody for hanging with us, and tell your friends about us. And cannot wait for soccer to get started up in just over 8 days. So Nick, take us home, brother.
Thanks again to all of our listeners, to our sponsors, Donovan Fruit Brokerage, Nice Premium Iceland Pure Spring Water, Skyra Spring Water, not spring water, advanced water. I mean, it's got everything you need. It's got the alkaline, the electrolyte, it's got everything. So thank you to our listeners, to our sponsors, to our wives who put up with us doing this in our house when it's past the kids' bedtimes. Thank you to everyone. We appreciate it. Follow us on Twitter at SOP Soccer. Anywhere you can get podcasts, and especially on our YouTube channel. We look forward to talking with you when the MLS is back. Have a great Independence Day. Thanks, everyone.